Hey guys, welcome back to thedirtytank.com. Today we're about to go to the backyard because I'm going to show you 10 aquarium things that you can get straight from your backyard for free without damaging nature and without having to make a trip to the store. Let's get into it.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and head to the backyard. Now, this is my backyard. Tons of leaves because it is fall. Now, for those of you wondering, like, what backyard, like, where do you live? I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you live in a similar environment that I do, you probably have all these things. And even if you don't, you probably still have them or easy access. Now, the first thing we're looking at is my herb garden. Now, this thing's dying. I took a lot of things out, but all that's left in here is lavender. Now, lavender you can grow with its roots wet out of your fish tank. Now, you don't want to put the whole thing and submerge it inside your fish tank, but you can put the whole thing in there. And lavender smells amazing. You grab one of the leaves, you rub it a little bit, and it smells really, really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a couple bunches of lavender. Now, I'm kind of ripping this out with one hand because my other hand's holding the camera. This wasn't the best grab. But I do see some root structure on here, so let's go ahead and take this to the fish room, and let me show you how I would plant this, I guess, in my tanks. So we're in the garage right now, and these are all my garage tanks. I have roughly 20-ish tanks in here. Now, lavender is a highlight plant. So if you're going to bring it inside, you want it in an area where it would get a lot of light. And so I'm going to put it right here where I have some spider plant and parlor palm and monstera growing out of my tank. And I actually cut out a little notch for this container that's holding spider plant and parlor palm in there. And right above there is a garage light, a pretty bright one. And so I'm going to add this guy directly inside of this pot. Now, I'm going to have to put the camera down, so I'm going to add it on the tripod so you can kind of see what I'm doing, because I am going to need two hands for this. Now, I did put this in probably a little bit too much, right? You kind of just want the roots submerged in water, and you don't want the stem part in there. Now, what you could do, you could use a plastic plot like I have and fill it with dirt or sand or rocks even, just to hold the stem in place. Now, you can see I put it in there a little bit further than I should, but I wanted to make sure some of the root structure that I pulled out was in the water as well. And guys, I'm really looking forward to seeing this take off in the fish room. Now, item number 2 that you can get from your backyard, it probably may not be native, but you can see it everywhere, and it's super hardy. And what we're looking at here, this is creeping jenny. Now, creeping jenny is an amazing plant. A lot of people use it in their pondscapes, and you see it a lot of times growing out of the pond water and kind of flowing into it as well. But a lot of people don't realize that creeping jenny can grow completely submerged underwater. Now, I've done this before. I had creeping jenny in my tank for like almost a year before I rescaped it. It doesn't get as green. It gets a little bit more yellow green, but it grows so fast underwater. But you can also grow it just out of your tank with just the roots wet, and that's what we're gonna do here. Now, I'm adding it to this fish tank at the bottom because this one has a fairly bright light, and creeping jenny needs bright light. So this is a plant that likes tons and tons of light. So if you're gonna use this plant growing out of your tank, that's great. Make sure that the light you have can support growing creeping jenny, and so any bright light would do, right? And so that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of hanging it over the edge. I'm not pinning it. I'm not using a bucket or a clamp. I am just draping it over inside the tank and then over outside the tank so that it can kind of grow, kind of overflowing out of the tank. And I think it will look really good in that way. Now, all I'm doing, I grabbed a few pieces, and each piece has its end, whatever end that is. And so if you hang that part in water, it will start growing roots, and then it will just start growing on its own as well. Now, some things to note about creeping jenny is very fast growing, and during winter, if it's planted outside, it will die off, but it will come back. I've seen this plant come back time and time again. So if you want to use this plant out in your pond instead of inside, you can do that, and it is a plant that will come back. But I'm just hanging it over the edge here, just kind of wherever I want, and over time it will kind of look better and develop very luscious leaves. Now I had some extra trimmings and I just threw it in my I don't know, I'm calling this my immersed plant tank, all the way to the right, that small 5-gallon. So I threw them in there, but this is kind of what it looks like, right? All you have to do is just make sure the ends are in the water, and Creepin' Jenny will do the rest. All right, item number 3 you can get from your backyard. You're gonna need a basket for this one, and you are guaranteed to have this. Just go anywhere in your backyard during the fall time, and that's right, guys, you guessed it. These leaves you can add to your tank. Now, why do you add leaves to your tank? Well, really, it's for biofilm, and shrimp love them, and baby shrimp like biofilm. Now, when you're picking leaves, you don't want it to have any color. So if it's orange or green or yellow, don't pick it yet. It's going to grow mold and fungus. Make sure that it's completely dried out. Make sure it's extra crispy. Make sure it's brown. And if it is, then you have the right kind of leaves. So we're going to go ahead and take these to the fish room now. We're in the garage, and I'm going to add these to the shrimp tank. Now, up top, I got a couple shrimp tanks. I have a red Rilly tank, and I have a raccoon tiger tank. Here's my red Rillies, and we're going to add some leaves to both of these 2 tanks. Now, I'm just going to grab a handful, and I'm going to toss them in there. Now, as you can see, I'm not boiling the water or boiling these leaves. I'm not spraying anything on them. I'm not doing anything to prep them. And the reason for this is I know that I don't spray any pesticides in my yard, so these leaves are going to be a-okay in my tanks. So if you have a mosquito program or any type of pesticide that you normally spray out in your yard, then you may want to think twice about adding leaves, and you may want to see a way to clean them if there is a way. But luckily for me, all these leaves are a-okay, and I do this every single year. Whenever I have any type of shrimp, I make sure in the fall to grab some leaves, and they absolutely love them. Now, item number 4 that you can get from your backyard, you're gonna need a basket for this one as well, or some kind of container to help you carry them all. Now, they don't come on all trees, but certain trees will have this particular item. It's another botanical. It's not a leaf. It's not sticks, and you're gonna have to look on the ground fairly well. I would encourage you to start looking for this item before all the leaves fall, because once the leaves fall, it starts to get a little bit more difficult to find them. But if you are patient enough, you will find it. Now, I don't know the name of these. I call them little spike balls. Maybe they're a spike ball. Maybe, I don't know, they're chestnuts. If you guys know what they're called, let me know. But if you walk out barefoot, you'll probably find them. Now, I found a pine cone. I was thinking about adding that, but I've never added a pine cone in my tank before. I'm not sure if that's safe. I'm gonna Google it later, but you guys let me know if you tried pine cones before. Here's another spike ball, and this one's kind of all beat up, but it will work for sure. Now, guys, I was actually having trouble finding some, but there was a couple on my daughter's play area, so I was able to grab those. And now it's time to go in the garage. We probably got about, I don't know, 8 to 10 little spike balls. Now, I'm mainly gonna add these to the shrimp tanks because I already have a few in my shrimp tanks, but I want to add more. Because I catch them munching on it and eating all the biofilm that's on it, and it looks cool in your tank. It's a cool looking botanical that doesn't add a ton of tannins. Now, it will release some tannins, right, depending on how many you add, and if you don't like that, you can boil it. But normally I just plop them in, and within a couple days they start to get saturated and they'll sink to the bottom.
All right, guys, it hasn't even been 15 minutes, and check out what my shrimp are already doing. Let's go ahead and look in the garage, and if we look up top where my shrimp go, check this out. You see that little guy and that little guy? They're already on these leaves. Guys, there's food that grows just on things, right? Like on wood, on leaves, on these little spiky balls. These biofilm will just grow on it, and baby fish and shrimp especially absolutely love it.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and head to the backyard for item number 5. Now, this grows wild where I live, and I actually grabbed some a couple years ago, and I put it in this pot near my fireplace just because I love having it here because it smells so nice. But this is mint, guys. Now, I don't know if it's spearmint or winter mint, or it's just some type of mint that grows out here. It smells absolutely amazing. But this stuff you can grow out of your tank as well. And so I'm going to grab a sprig of this, and I'm going to try to get some of the root system with it as well. And we're going to take this inside the fish room and plant it inside. Now, I want to add it to this area right here. As you can see, I have one of those plexiglass tops that I notched out. And this is why I love having plastic tops versus glass tops, because I can do things like this. And so this way the roots stay wet, but the whole plant doesn't fall in. And I think it's going to love it here. Now, this next thing is already in place, and this is strawberries. Now, this is my outdoor mini ponds, 110 gallon. Have a rice fish in here. But if you look here in the waterfall feature, you can see that these are little strawberries starting to grow out. And now strawberries need a ton of light, so I left it here. But if you have a ton of light inside, you can bring them inside and grow them. Item number 7 is a fig tree cutting. Now here I'm at one of my fig trees, and I'm going to cut right here. This is a little branch with a few leaves on it. Now most of the leaves are falling off because it's fall, but I'm going to cut this at an angle. So when you cut it, you want a decent sized branch that you cut at an angle, and these plants you can actually root in water. Now, can you grow it, a whole tree, out of water? Maybe. I'm not sure. I think you're gonna need a ton of light to do that. Here's my monstera. It's growing new leaves, and look at the root structure already. I'm loving it. Now, I'm gonna put the fig tree cutting right here as well. Now, I don't know if you can grow this in the water long term, but I do know that you can root it in water, and I'm fine with that. And so I'm trying to figure out a clever way to kind of attach this in the water so where it won't fall in. And what I'm doing, since this is my garage, is I'm just gonna lay it here. And as you can see, part of it's in the water, and I'm hoping that part starts growing a root structure, and we start getting, I don't know, a miniature tree in here. That would be really, really cool. And I'll definitely provide you updates as time goes on. Now, item number 8 that you can get from your backyard is wood. Now, these are a couple pieces of wood that I'm preparing to put into my tank. Now, what I do is I wash them very well, and then I leave them somewhere where they can get a lot of sun and a lot of airflow. Here's another one that I'm going to use in a bit. And then once it goes through its washing process and its drying out process, I just chuck it in. Here's an example of one of them that I put in. This is a branch from my backyard, and I think it looks pretty nice. It's kind of in my throw tank right now, but soon I'm going to put it in scape with it, because, I mean, it was free wood, and I think it looks really, really great. Now, item number 9 is pretty common. A lot of people do this, but a lot of people don't talk about how they prepare it, right? And so I want to show that as well. Now, what I'm getting is actually a rock. Now, closer towards the seasonal creek that I have in my backyard, there's always some type of rock that I can grab. Now, I'm only going to grab one rock. You don't want to take everything from nature. You want to leave some things there for whatever is using it as its house. But this is looking like a pretty good rock. So I'm going to go ahead and take it. I'm going to prepare it to really be, I guess, okay to put in my tank. Now, the first thing I do is I wash it and scrub it. And then I leave it outside where it can get sun, and I just leave it for a couple days until it's bone dry. And then it's ready. Now, the last thing that you can throw inside your tank that you get from your backyard is soil, right? It's dirt. Now, you've heard of dirty tanks before. A lot of people say get the organic potting soil. That's gonna be your safest option. But if you don't add chemicals or fertilizer to your yard, or if you have a garden that you keep pesticide and fertilizer free, you can use that soil in your tanks. And that's exactly what I did on this entire rack. So if we look over here, I got a few racks. This rack is all dirted. Everything we have here is dirt from my backyard. If you look here, you can kind of see the dirt mixed in with some crushed coral and then capped with black sand. And all these tanks are done the exact same way. And my fish, shrimp,
absolutely love it, but the plants love it as well. But it does more than just help your plants grow fast. In addition to that, it also helps produce biofilm and microflora, microfauna that baby fish and shrimp can eat, and it helps create an ecosystem within your tank. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.